r/Askreddit.
Redditors who have been in coma. What was the experience like? Did time fly by? Did you have any contact with the outer world?
Reddit.
I can tell you what my friend told me. He went into the hospital for surgery right before Thanksgiving, and it didn't go well. He slowly came into the hospital and noticed his wife was beside him. He croaked something because his voice was terrible, and his wife burst into tears. When he was able to get to the point where he could ask why, she answered, "You've been in a coma for over 10 weeks. It's February." He thought he was in the recovery room after surgery. Holy shit, imagine that. Thinking your surgery had gone fine and you just woken up. But bam, nope, you just lost 10 weeks. And Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and New Year's.
Reddit.
I was hit in the neck with a machete about 2 years ago, and fell and hit my head. Someone tried to kill me over something stupid. After being light-flighted to the nearest hospital, I was put in an induced coma for a week. I did and do not remember a thing. My quick answer to your question. Wow, if you don't mind, could you give a backstory to that? I lived next to a rough neighborhood, and didn't realize how bad it was. I lived in some bad places and it seemed no different. I decided since the road went in a big circle, that would be a good place to walk my dog. He was a Shar-Pei and big at that, so I thought that I would not catch any shit. Well, my mistake for being nice to a guy that said hey to me one day. And we chatted, and got to know each other. He seemed nice. I would talk to him about 10-15 minutes a day, and go on my way. Well, one day he asked if I wanted to drink a few beers with him, and I told him to let me take my dog home, and I would come back. After doing so, we start getting a little drunk and playing a game of cards on his front stoop. He loses the game, and as I didn't know how angry and drunk he got, flipped the table and started cursing me out. Push comes to shove, as I am not going to let anyone talk to me and push me like he was doing. So I hit him. And I guess the alcohol made him easily knockable and he fell out. As I was walking away, he had come to, went into his house, and chased me down. As it was dark, I could only hear him, not see him. But when I turned, he chopped at my neck with a machete. The next thing I know, I wake up later in haiku. Here is a potato pic of my neck. The scar goes all the way around to the back of my neck. Edit. After losing 3 liters of blood, I passed out on the walk home and I hit my head on the concrete. And the person's house I ended up in front of called the EMTs. That caused the swelling in my head. I'm still not sure why I was put into a coma. I was out of the hospital in a month and never really questioned what they did. I was just happy to be alive and not addicted to those kick-ass meds they had me on.
Reddit.
I was in a coma for 5 weeks due to meningococcal. I had a lot of dreams. Most I can still remember pretty clearly. You can definitely take in what is being said from the people around you. I was 12 at the time, 22 now, and my mother was reading Lord of the Rings to me while I was out. I had some pretty vivid Lord of the Rings related dreams, like eating some Mike's cubes under the bridge with Bilbo Baggins. When I woke up, it felt like I'd been gone for a long time, but without knowing how long. Edit. Whoa. Thanks for the gold, stranger.
Reddit.
A friend of ours fell into a coma at age 25, 1992, and woke up at the age of 36, 2002. She was a Rhodes Scholar nominee, I think, secondhand information, and quite brilliant. She was still 25 mentally, as if everything was just on pause. Her body was really well preserved. She's really fun and cool and sort of the ultimate cougar. Plus, she totally woke up to the internet. Holy shit. It must be absolutely terrifying to wake up and be 10 years older, seemingly overnight.
Reddit.
I spent 8 days in a coma last year after a particularly traumatic surgery. My waking thoughts were wondering if I had died or made it. I couldn't open my eyes and I was on a medical air mattress, so I felt like I was floating. This led me to think that I had died. And I remember thinking it wasn't so bad and wondering if my dad would come find me. Once I realized that I was still alive, I thought that I had been injured in a war and worried my wife might not know I was still alive. Trying to communicate with nurses while intubated and drugged was very difficult. What I learned later from my wife is that she was there the whole time. While I was fighting against the doctors and nurses, I would immediately calm down and cooperate when she held my hand and sang to me. Still brings tears to my eyes to see the love and devotion she has shown to me during this time.
My dad, emergency room doctor, told me about this woman in a coma he saw during his residency. The experience taught him that you need to treat everyone like they're a fully aware and conscious person, even people in coma. Him and the other residents would do all their rounds. They had regular patients at the hospital, and they would go from room to room checking on them with the attending physician who instructed them. One woman was in deep coma for weeks, months. I'm a little hazy on the details, but it was a long time. Every time they'd come in, they'd say, "Hi, Miss Blank. I'm Dr. Blank, and I'm just here to check on you." He talked to her like she was listening to him, explaining what he was doing to her step by step. And a lot of the other doctors thought it was kind of silly. I mean, she's in a coma, so she can't be listening, right? Well, time goes by and the woman wakes up. All of a sudden, they're doing their rounds and he walks into the room and says something and she immediately recognizes his voice. She came to the hospital in a coma and never saw the man and never heard him talk while she was awake before that day. She immediately recognized his voice and says, "Oh, I remember you. You're the one that was so nice to me." That makes comas seem really terrifying to me. The fact that she was conscious enough to recognize not only a voice, but somehow someone treated her while she was in a coma shows you that you just can't assume someone isn't listening just because they aren't talking.
Not me, but my dad. My dad was in a coma for about 2 months a couple years ago. Recently, we were talking about the whole thing. And he told me that he had hallucinated that he lived for 10 years, and he did all sorts of things during that time. He said it was very vivid, and he walked across the country a couple times during it. When he woke up, got home, he said it would throw him off when he would run into people he hadn't seen since before the coma, because at first, he always expected them to have aged by 10 years. Well, he practically got 10 years extra life experience. Look at the bright side. Since I was in a coma for 3 days after a car accident where I hit my head, pretty much I was driving, then the color purple, then waking up 3 days later, there was really nothing. Not even like sleeping, because when you wake up from sleeping, you know you were asleep. And it was like a blinking. 1 second you were doing something, then the next something totally different. I do have a vague memory of being on the table with a cute guy wiping my nose and hurting really bad. I remember saying, "You are super cute," but that's all. I believe it was before when I went into the coma after the accident. I had a brain bruise or something like that, and it caused speech problems for about 6 months after.
Just a very short time span, less than a week, but it felt like nothing. You just wake up and realize shit happened. You get told you've been injured, what caused it, what I broke, etc. And somewhere along the lines, they also tell you you've been kept in a coma. I didn't bother asking the first time around, but I also remember pretty much nothing around that period in time anyway. They may have told me, I just forgot. What I distinctly remember is the time of waking up. It just felt like a dream until your brain actually decides to take notice of what's happening around you during the coma. I can't say I've experienced anything at all. Not even vivid dreams, but then again, how often do you remember vivid dreams? Mine usually disappear in under 5 seconds after waking up. Time did fly by. In a sense, that time flies by as you step. You're aware time passed, but that's it. Plenty of other priorities, such as, was this stick inside my penis? To not wet the bed? Why is a part of my beard gone? Accident scar on my chin? Kick ass? Why do I feel drunk? Painkillers and concussion from hell? That's all I remember from that time. My catheter freaked me right the fuck out. I would not stop trying to take it out for the first hour or two. Saddest part is, they did not clean it regularly and there was crustiness built up around my urethra.
This was told to me by a dear friend. When having her second son, she had a scheduled C-section. Her first was also a C-section birth. She had been uncomfortable during the last part of her pregnancy, saying that she felt pain in her bladder. Anyway, during the operation, she suddenly screamed and then hemorrhaged. Turns out she had placenta prurita, where the placenta grows through the uterine wall. It grew into her bladder and intestines. How this was not picked up during all her ultrasounds, I will never understand. Her doctor saved her, and it was not easy. She had a heart attack. Her lungs collapsed. I can't remember how many units of blood she needed. We all thought she would die, and she was in a coma for over 3 weeks. Then one day she just kind of woke up. She told me that she does not remember much, but was aware sometimes of voices and a feeling of panic. Her husband talked about how they would put the baby on her chest, and when they picked him back up, tears would leak down. She told me that things got lighter in her head, like sun through deep clouds. As she healed, they call her the miracle woman. Was the baby okay? Was he born with any problem? I was in a coma for about 3 days post open heart surgery. I went in for the surgery on a Thursday morning at about 8 a.m. Surgery went bad, and I apparently was on a respirator for 48 hours until I could breathe on my own. And I woke on a Sunday night about 11 p.m. I thought it was still Thursday. I had no awareness of time past, or of anything that happened while I was unconscious. Freshman year of high school, I attempted suicide and almost succeeded. I took a bunch of pills and went to school. The last thing I remember is walking into school. I vaguely remember falling on my knees and hearing screaming. I woke up 2 weeks later in the hospital. I don't remember those 2 weeks at all. I didn't even realize that the time had passed when I woke up. How you doing these days, OP? When I was considered medically dead, I couldn't hear anyone. I was in a huge white room with no walls. Just a floor. The floor would occasionally sparkle far off. I could not move. I could just look around. It was completely empty. I could still feel emotions. I had a heavy feeling of being nervous/worried. It felt like I was sneaking into a place where I did not belong, like a part of the house that was off limits to me as a kid. Time went by so slowly. I felt every second of it. It was only for 4-ish minutes, but it definitely felt that long. I could not think. I just felt. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. I felt helpless. Everything was out of my control. I felt trapped. I don't remember, but when I was revived, I screamed for minutes. I just screamed and cried. Far out. I was in a coma for 4 days following a pretty bad TB. After I was responsive but not fully conscious. I would respond to cues but with inappropriate responses. After a couple days of that, I returned to consciousness. I felt well rested but extremely hungry. I knew where I was, but not why I was there. I did not remember any of the responses I had given over the last few days. I never did get those memories back.
The frog is pleased. Thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe for more.
Like.